Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Saturday, October the 12th. It's race number 8 at Keeneland, the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Cup for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth on the turf. Before we take a look at the field, remember this great deal for DRFTV viewers. 10% off all DRF past performances. Shop now by accessing the QR code on your screen and use the coupon code DRFTV10. Here's the field for the QE2 Challenge Cup. Remember to access your free Formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. There's a quality group of 3-year-old fillies in here, Mike. 2 European entrants, the 5 Soprano, the 10 Candala. They bring serious credentials to the field, but they may all have to beat She Feels Pretty, never off the board in her career for Cherie DeVoe.
Yeah, nothing but good races from She Feels Pretty. Obviously a major contender in this race, even with a couple of Europeans shipping over. Just runs really well every single time, Dennis. She's so tactical. It just feels like there's a good trip coming for her from post number 3.
That's a great point as we head to the Timeform US pace projector. I know Timeform US has Pounce on the lead, and she has shown plenty of speed in the past, but it seems like they've made a concerted effort to rate her off the pace in her last few races. I wouldn't be surprised at all if She Feels Pretty goes to the lead, getting blinkers for the first time, and even a horse like the 1 Pinup Betty being ridden by an aggressive jockey and Luis Saez can be close as well.
Yeah, they've used her speed in the past, Pinup Betty, so they could certainly try to go again from a really nice draw in here. The 2, Caitlin, her greatness, they haven't been, very aggressive with her, Dan, but she has speed. She's a great gate horse, too. They just happen to rate her most of the time. But she could certainly be forward in here. I expect the 3 is going to be looking for a spot up close. This pace is pretty hard to decipher.
The number 1 is Pinup Betty, and she's returning to her best distance. She really seems to like a mile and an eighth, and she is versatile from a running style standpoint. She won the Regret from off of the pace going a mile and an eighth at Churchill during the spring, and then she showed good speed in the Pucker Up 2 back before just missing. I'm not interested in her last race at Kentucky Downs. It's a surface that she might not have handled. She's pretty consistent. She's going to be a price, and she goes out for good connections.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. At a price from this post with Saez up, and it feels like she could maybe fall into a trip here. I'm not totally adverse to using her somewhere in this race. That I remember really liking her Regret back in June. I thought she ran great that day. I didn't love her loss 2 starts back. I thought she was defeated by Waves of Mischief, who's also in here. I thought she just lost that race without excuse.
Trainer Kevin Attard really has some nice fillies and mares based up in Canada. Moira and Full Count Felicia heading to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. And then he's got the King's Plate winner, the 2, Caitlin Her Greatness. Let's watch her score the first jewel of Canada's Triple Crown, rallying from the logo to run down the pace setter. She beat the boys this day going a mile and a quarter on the synth, and I like that they bypassed the 2nd and 3rd jewels of Canada's Triple Crown. The 2nd jewel's on dirt, the 3rd's at a mile and a half on turf. It seems like they've been pointing for this race.
Yeah, it does feel that way. And listen, she's bred to be a turf horse, Dan. They started her out on dirt in New York, and she had speed in those races and ran fine, but she's bred for grass. And they finally got her on the surface, her first start for Kevin Attard. I don't know if she beat a good field that day. She got a perfect trip, but she also won really easily. Her 2 starts since then are both good. Are you going to be surprised if Frankie Dettori, is there anybody more clever than him? You're going to be surprised if he puts this horse on the lead in this race and takes them a long way? I'm not.
She Feels Pretty is the number 3. She's shown immense talent from day 1. She won her first 2 starts, including the Grade 1 Natalma, going a 1-turn mile, and she ran just fine when a close 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. She beat weak competition in her seasonal debut. It's been close but no cigar in her last 2 races, but last time out in the Lake Placid, while she was the beaten favorite against Grayosh, she covered a lot more ground than that horse.
Yeah, it seemed like that was the key to that race, too, because that was at a time when the rails were taken down on the inner turf at Saratoga. Saving ground was at a premium that day, Dan, and She Feels Pretty didn't get to save any on the outside the entire way. Still just missed. Good performance there. I thought she ran really well going longer. 2 starts back against Cinderella's Dream, who probably is the best 3-year-old filly in North America. All of her races are good, and I think even with the Europeans shipping in here, I think she's the horse to beat.
Waves of Mischief has plenty of upside and seems to be coming into her own for an excellent trainer in Brendan Walsh. She won the Pucker Up 2 starts back at this distance. And then most recently, the Into Mischief filly competed in the Dueling Grounds Oaks over the testing Kentucky Downs turf course, and she ran a good second. So she's coming into this race in good form, and I think he can project a forward move on a buyer scale at a price.
I think so too. I just want to use this horse. This might be a little bit too tough for her at this stage of the game, but I just want to use her. Her debut was really good. They threw her right in against She Feels Pretty in her second start. She was never going to beat that horse that day. And her 2 turf starts since then are both good. I mean, that win and the Pucker Up 2-back, Pinna Betty had a huge lead on her. This horse was confidently ridden though, and just came and closed her down on the wire. I thought she ran really, really well in that race, and she moved forward again last time.
Irish Import Soprano likes firm ground, and we'll see if she gets that at Keeneland this weekend. A Group 3 winner 2 starts back. She took on a nice one last time out in the Group 1 Matron. Porta Fortuna might be headed to the Breeders' Cup Mile, but that's kind of the key, isn't it? Soprano's going to have to stretch out to 1.125 miles, and I guess that distance is a little bit of a question mark.
I think it is too, especially when you go back and watch that Matron again last time, because she got really headstrong in that race. She wouldn't settle. I mean, I don't think she can afford to do that. In a race like this, especially as they try 9 furlongs for the first time. I do think she's in really good form coming into this race. Her win, she was impressive when she won that Group 3 2 starts back. So I think she's talented. I wonder what kind of trip she's going to be able to get in here, and I wonder, what kind of price she's going to be as well.
Trainer Chad Brown might be lurking under the radar here with the 6 oversubscribed, coming off a runner-up effort in the Lake George behind Pounce, but try to compare the trips. Pounce worked out a good inside-out closer's trip, while oversubscribed was buried on the rail on the second turn and in behind horses. I don't really think she had a chance to show her best stuff that day, and she sure looked good winning the Wild Applause 2 starts back.
I'm going to agree with all that stuff, Dan. I mean, I don't, this horse hasn't proven it yet necessarily on the racetrack, at least in the good races. But, out of that Lake George, shortly after that race was over, to me, it was pretty clear that you wanted oversubscribed out of that race and not Pounce. Although, price has to be factored in as well. And, these Chad Brown horses tend to get bet. I think this filly is really talented, and I think she's a major, major player in here.
If you like horses for courses, look no further than the 7 Buku, won the Grade 2 Jessamine last year at Keeneland, who won the Grade 2 Appalachian earlier this spring at Keeneland. I just wonder how much better she's gotten since that race. Her buyer speed figures seem to have plateaued. 4th in the Del Mar Oaks last time out, a race that was kind of controlled up front.
Yeah, I wonder how. I really do want to make excuses for her, though, Dan, especially if that. I mean, she's 15-1 on the morning line. I think it's pretty clear that she's run races that are going to give her a chance in here. I thought she returned from the layoff with a really good effort in the Appalachian earlier this year. I thought she ran really well that day. Then she catches yielding ground. To me, her regret, she just did not get a good trip in that race, and I think she ran really well in there. Then they try to stretch her out at Belmont. Maybe she doesn't want to go that far. Winds up in a paceless race last time. I think she might be dirtied up, Dan, and she's good, and she's a big price.
Pounce is the number 8, very pace adaptable for Mark Cassie. She's won from on the lead. She's won from off the pace. And it seems like after she ran a tired 3rd in the Penn Oaks, they've tried to take her off the pace. And it worked really well in the Lake George, especially when Dylan Davis, who was riding better than just about anybody at the time, worked out a really nice trip with her to get the better of the Brown-trained oversubscribed. Again, she ran at Kentucky Downs, and they turned her back to 6.5, so I'm willing to draw a line through that race. She's consistent. I'm not sure if she's a little bit dressed up because she got a good trip 2 starts back, but at this price, you can at least take a gamble that she's improving.
I agree with you. I don't know the answer to those questions either, Dan. If she's dressed up or dirtied up, I don't know. I really liked her first 2 turf starts. I'll be honest. I am still, and she was in that Appalachian with Buku too, and to me, she just got a terrible trip in that race. I'm just going to be stubborn. Listen, you can't like them all in a race like this, and I'm going to be against her because I don't think she was best when she won the Lake George 2 starts back. I think oversubscribed was, and I'm just going to still hold the Penn Oaks against her. I loved her in that race. I thought she was a very fair price. I don't know how she lost to that field.
Greyache is the number 9 for Brown, and she pulled off the upset over She Feels Pretty with a perfect trip and ride from Flavian Pratt. Greyache is the gray who saved ground in the pocket behind the pace setter. On the outside is She Feels Pretty, who had to make a 3-wide bid through the turn and into the stretch. And when She Feels Pretty couldn't herd Buku in, and Greyache in, and Greyache bowled her way through in between horses, Greyache showed a lot of moxie to get it done.
Yeah, she did. They both ran really, really well in this race. And yes, Greyache got to save a lot of ground in there, and that was really important. But she still ran in that race, Dan. And then you go back and you sort of, if you don't want to judge her off that, then go back and look at her other races and save the, the start down at Goshen where she dropped her rider into the first turn. Every race she's running is really good. I mean, that she ran an excellent race in the Wonder again when she was fourth, trying to come through traffic in the stretch. She was really good when she just missed 2 starts back at Saratoga, and she improved again last time. This filly's underrated.
Candala, the daughter of the legendary Frankel, ships in from France. She was third in a Group 2 last time out. She wore a hood for the first time. She was able to save ground for most of the way, got to the outside in the stretch, and ran on to be third. Yeah. Most notable about that race is the winner, who came right back to win the Group 1 Prix de l'Opera on Arc de Triomphe Sunday and appears headed for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. That one is really good.
Yeah, it just feels like that was a little too tough for it. It kind of also felt like maybe longer distances aren't really suiting her, but I don't know if she was going to win that race anyway. Last time, the race 2 starts back, 1.5 miles, I thought she ran great that day. And I'll be honest, Dad, I'm not so sure she wasn't going to win that race with a better trip. They wrangled her early in that race to get her off the pace, and she just got totally boxed up through the stretch. And I thought it was way too late when she got out. Boy, her maiden win was really good last year. They put her right on the lead that day, and she dominated. And then she came off the layoff this year in that Group 3 and ran another really, really good race to close that field down. I think she has a lot of talent.
I really think 1.1 miles will hit her right between the eyes. We'll see what sort of trip she gets and if she prefers the firmer going expected at Keeneland on Saturday. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. It's top pick time for the QA2 Cup. You're going with Candala. Just the class lines overseas seems to work. We know that sometimes these European horses don't break very well, but maybe that'll help Florent Giroux get her covered up early.
Yeah, they probably will try that. We'll see what kind of trip she works. I know that's going to be important from post 10. I just really like all of her races. And I do like her dropping back in distance a little bit for this. And to be honest, and I just thought like our stateside horses, and I do think she feels pretty as the horse to beat, but I thought these horses were a little tough to separate. I think there are a lot of chances in this race.
I'm with you on she feels pretty. I think she's a major contender, and I've got her second. I want to give Pounce one more try. I wonder if that was kind of a breakout performance, albeit with a good trip 2 starts back. She just has to be a price in this race. 8, 3, 9, 10 for me, 10, 6, 6, 3, 7 for Mike. In the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, it's at Keeneland on Saturday. Good luck. Hey buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner, and just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.